if I asked you to name a country whose music makes the world dance, but whose history is filled with struggle and strength, what would you say? Welcome to Angola, and welcome back to History in Minutes. This is a land by the Atlantic Ocean, a place where ancient kingdoms rose and fell, where empires fought, where slavery cast long shadows, and where music and hope still keep hearts alive. Long before Europeans arrived, Angola was already home to powerful African states. In the north stood the Kingdom of Congo, a society of farmers, hunters, and traders who built strong cities and networks of power. Meanwhile, further south, the Kingdom of Ndongo grew in strength. Its people spoke Kimbundu, farmed cassava and millet, and developed vibrant traditions. At the top of Ndongo's hierarchy stood the king, called the Angola, and therefore, centuries later, this very title would give birth to the name Angola. The 15th and 16th centuries brought change. Portuguese ships began arriving, and in 1575 they founded the settlement of Luanda. At first it was small, but it quickly became the beating heart of Portuguese colonial power in Africa. They brought trade and Christianity, but they also brought war, control, and exploitation. Resistance was inevitable, and yet one figure became larger than all others. Queen Nzinga Mbande of Ndongo and Matamba. She was a queen, yes, but also a fierce strategist, diplomat, and warrior. In 1622, when she first met the Portuguese governor, she refused to bow. Instead, legend says she sat on the back of one of her servants so she would face him eye to eye. She would not be beneath anyone. Nzinga forged alliances, fought battles, and even moved her capital to survive. Therefore, she became a symbol of defiance, remembered as one of Africa's greatest leaders. But as Nzinga resisted, another darker force was already shaping Angola's destiny. From the 1500s until the 1800s, Angola became one of the largest centers of the Atlantic slave trade. Ships sailed from Luanda and Benguela, carrying hundreds of thousands. In fact, more than 3 million Angolans over the centuries. Men, women, and children were taken, chained, and forced onto ships. Families were torn apart, villages emptied, and generations lost. But the culture of Angola refused to die. The rhythms of Angolan drums crossed the ocean. In Brazil, they became the roots of samba. In martial arts, they lived on in capoeira. Therefore, even in tragedy, Angolan culture helped shape global music and dance. If you find it powerful how culture survives even the darkest times, consider subscribing, because we love uncovering stories like these. By the 1800s, the slave trade declined, but Portuguese control grew even stronger. Colonial rulers imposed forced labor, harsh taxes, and strict laws. Life was brutal for most Angolans. However, seeds of resistance were being planted. Songs, prayers, and underground movements kept alive the dream of freedom. The mid-20th century brought a storm. Across Africa, colonial empires were collapsing. In Angola, 3 movements rose: MPLA, UNITA, and FNLA. They had different ideologies, but all shared one dream: independence. In 1961, armed struggle began. Villages burned, thousands died. And yet, the determination did not break. After 14 years of bloody conflict, Portugal finally left. On November 11th, 1975, Angola was independent. But freedom was only the beginning of a new struggle. Right after independence, civil war erupted. The MPLA controlled Luanda, while UNITA and FNLA claimed other territories. And because of the Cold War, foreign powers joined in. Cuba and the Soviet Union supported the MPLA. The United States and South Africa supported UNITA. Therefore, Angola's war was no longer just a local conflict. It was a battlefield of global politics. For 27 years, the war dragged on. Cities were bombed, families displaced, and peace talks often failed. In 1992, Angolans even voted in their first elections. But violence returned. Finally, in 2002, after the death of UNITA's leader, Jonas Savimbi, peace was signed. So at last, Angola could breathe again. If you believe stories of resilience matter, like this video, it helps more people know about Angola. Since 2002, Angola has been rebuilding rapidly. Fueled by oil wealth, Luanda transformed into one of Africa's busiest, richest, and even most expensive cities. Skyscrapers rose, highways spread, and foreign investment poured in. But not everything is solved. Poverty remains widespread. Rural areas lack infrastructure, and the economy still depends heavily on oil. Yet despite these challenges, Angola's people continue to create, to dance, and to dream. Culture has always been Angola's heartbeat. Traditional semba gave birth to Brazil's samba. Modern kuduro makes dance floors vibrate in Africa and Europe alike. Football unites the nation. Angola proudly played in the 2006 World Cup, and every match still brings the country together. And in daily life, Portuguese remains the official language, but Umbundu, Kimbundu, and many other languages are spoken, weaving a rich and colorful cultural tapestry. The story of Angola is one of struggle, yes, but also one of survival. From the ancient kingdom of Congo, through Queen Nzinga's defiance, through centuries of slavery, through independence and civil war, to today's rebuilding, Angola teaches us a simple truth. No matter how strong the storm, people can rise again. And that was the story of Angola, from the ancient kingdom of Congo to independence and modern times. But this is just the beginning. We're going through the history of every country in the world, one by one, in alphabetical order. That means the next country will be Argentina. So if you don't want to miss it, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Let's continue this journey together.